Assalamu alaikum. I hope you guys are doing well and welcome to another session. And today our focus is going to be organic chemistry. I know that that's a topic that for some reason many people are scared of, many people don't have the confidence, but that shouldn't be the case, especially after this class, inshallah, that wouldn't be the case. So I have divided organic chemistry into two sections. One is about hydrocarbons and alcohols, carboxylic acids, alcohols, and all that. And the second is about polymers. So we have two worksheets. I've already shared the links for those worksheets in the chat. So you can just start with the first worksheet over there. That's the one we'll start with. And then, of course, we'll move on to the next one. A couple of things before we start, though. So, for example, what exactly are some terms that you need to know? So, a couple of terms that you need to know about these things. Hold on, how do I add another page? Yeah, there you go. So yeah, I need a blank page. There you go. Okay, so a couple of terms that you need to know before we start. Assalamu alaikum Aniha, assalamu alaikum Wahab, Huzaifa. Good to see you all here. Okay, so bula lein sabko. I should send a text in the group as well. Just a minute. I'm just texting everybody so people can join in. अक्सर लोगों को पता नहीं होता, फिर बाद में गिला करते हैं. So hopefully no such case today. Okay, so let's get started. A couple of terms in organic chemistry that you need to know. First of all, they're never going to ask you what organic chemistry is or how it is different from others. They're never going to ask you that. So forget about those definitions. You don't need them. जो definitions आपको आनी चाहिए, जो terms आपको आनी चाहिए. पहली term आपको आनी चाहिए hydrocarbon. What exactly is hydrocarbon? So hydrocarbon is a compound made of carbon and hydrogen only. That's it. Alcohols में oxygen होता है, that's not hydrocarbon. So hydrocarbons are compounds of hydrogen and carbon only. So that's the first term you need to know. Second term, isomer. Isomers are compounds with same molecular formula but different structure. Okay, so they have same molecular formula and different structure, and that is important that you mention that they have different structure क्योंकि यहीं से तो उनका different start होता है. And you should be able to draw different isomers. You should have some idea कि isomers बनाते कैसे हैं. Couple of terms, a couple of examples like butane के isomers बनाने आने चाहिए, ethanol के isomers बनाने आने चाहिए. So try to practice that, and hopefully इस worksheet में भी we will practice some of those. Second, so two terms, hydrocarbon, isomers. Next term that you need to know about is empirical formula. And empirical formula is slightly unrelated to organic chemistry in particular, but empirical formula की definition भी आ सकती है that it is the formula with same, so it is the formula that gives the same ratio or gives the minimum ratio of all the elements that are present. So that's the empirical formula. It gives the shortest ratio, smallest ratio, simplest ratio of all the elements that are in there. इसके बाद आपके पास आ जाता है crude oil के different uses. अच्छा, polymers के बारे में भी वो पूछ लेता है कि polymers क्या होते हैं. So polymers are large molecules made from smaller molecules like smaller monomers connected together. So polymers वो होते हैं, और हम polymers को at the end of this session इंशाल्लाह हम उसको भी देख लेंगे. अच्छा, तो definition हमारे पास यही है, इससे ज़्यादा कोई अगर definition आएगी I will explain that to you then. Next thing which is slightly unrelated but still organic के start में वो होती है, that is different fuels that we have. Crude oil से different fuels निकलते हैं, you know petrol, you know diesel, kerosene, paraffin, naphtha, petroleum gases and wax and bitumen. All of those you need to know the uses. और अगर उसके लिए अगर आपने देखना है ना, the easiest thing to do, अस्सलाम वालेकुम boys, the easiest thing to do is go to your syllabus. If you're doing O levels or IGCSE, doesn't matter, just go to your syllabus और वहाँ पे जाके ना बस सर्च कर लें, ठीक है, और आपको ऑटोमेटिकली सारी चीज़ें जो आपको याद करनी है ना वो वहाँ से आपको मिल जाएंगी. सो जस्ट गो एंड सर्च पेट्रोल और आपको पेट्रोलियम की सारी बातें, सारे यूजेस आ जाएंगे. जैसे कि हमारे पास इफ़ आई कॉपी देम हेयर फ्रॉम ओ लेवल्स, दिस इज फ्रॉम ओ लेवल सिलेबस, सो इट्स गिव्स अस दिस सेड दैट यू आर सपोज टू नो दैट यू यूज पेट्रोलियम in different products. So petrol as a fuel in car, naphtha as feedstock. Feedstock का मतलब है we use it to make other compounds, ठीक है. So that's what feedstock means. तो हमारे पास naphtha है. पैराफिन को केरोसिन भी लिख सकते हैं, ठीक है. So kerosene as fuel for heating, cooking and for aircraft engines. So वो भी यहाँ पर आ गया. Now how is this different from the ones that you have for IGCSE? कोई इतना ज़्यादा फ़र्क नहीं है. This is from IGCSE. And I'm just copying it here just so you know that there is not much of a difference. This is from IGCSE, so you can clearly see that in O levels, this is O levels and this is IGCSE. There isn't much of a difference. IGCSE में there are a couple more fractions and you're supposed to know about them. Sorry about that noise from outside. Okay, so these are the things that you need to know. अब इनको याद करने का एक बड़ा सिंपल सा तरीका. Go to Google and here's the link for the syllabus. Assalamu alaikum ma'am. And here's the link for O levels. So that was the link for IGCSE. Here's the link for O levels. Just go over there, start searching. Command F या Control F press करें if you're using Windows or Mac, your choice. And just identify name. तो वहाँ से सब वो चीज़ें आ जाएंगी जिनको आपको name पता होना चाहिए. और when you say name, then you obviously talk about their uses. So वहाँ से हमारे पास वो आ जाता है. So these are the fractions that you need to know about for O levels and IGCSE, and this is something fact that you will be asked to recall. Okay, so you will be required to know this. So ये हो गया हमारे पास कि अच्छा ठीक है. Next we have different terms like saturation. Saturation is a term that is strictly related to organic chemistry, and saturation is basically the idea that there is no double carbon-carbon bond. We are talking about carbon-carbon bond. So saturated compounds, all carbon-carbon bonds are single. So that's the idea. So how do you test? You pass that thing through bromine water or aqueous bromine or even liquid bromine, and if it turns colorless, that means the thing is not saturated. So brown to colorless tells me that it is unsaturated. So saturation is when there is no carbon-carbon double bond. Carbon-oxygen bond की बात नहीं हो रही है. It is carbon-carbon double bond that matters. And yeah, because of that, we can use addition reaction for bromine to test whether there is a color change or not. If there is no color change, that means saturated है. अगर color change हुआ, तो इसका मतलब है saturated नहीं है. Okay, so that's the thing. Now there are other concepts as well, but if you need me to go over them individually, let me know. हमारी जो last organic chemistry के ऊपर discussion हुई थी, I think it was the Saturday before the last one. We went through the whole syllabus in detail as to what are the concepts required, what kind of questions are asked, and today we are going to do questions. So if you have any questions that you need to know about, any concepts you don't know, I will be happy to explain. Just send that question to me and I will be happy to help. Now let's get started with these questions. Two containers, one of methane and one of butane, are placed at the same distance from a naked flame. Both gases are released at the same time. The methane gas reaches the flame and catches fire before the butane gas. Of course it will, because methane has meth, that's one So methane has 1 carbon. Butane, but means 4, so it has 4 carbons. So yeah, methane reaches first, butane reaches later, and so the statement that should explain this should talk about diffusion. And the diffusion depends on 2 factors, MR and the temperature. Inka temperature same hai, so MR is what we are talking about. So we'll say that methane molecules have a smaller mass than butane molecules. So that's the 4th option, and we'll go with that one. Assalamualaikum, Ms. Saeeda. Then, how can alkenes be manufactured? How do you make alkenes? Remember naphtha, which was used as feedstock for different chemicals? So that also has a role to play in here. In fact, we use different fractions from petroleum to make smaller fractions. अब उसकी 2-3 uses हो सकते हैं. First, we do cracking on petroleum products because we want to get hydrogen gas. We use hydrogen to make ammonia. We use hydrogen to make that whole what's that process? Margarine manufacturing. We use hydrogen as a fuel. Okay, so those are some different uses of hydrogen. So we can use cracking for that. Similarly, we can use cracking to convert larger molecules into smaller ones. और उसका फ़ायदा ये होता है कि larger molecules have higher activation energy if you try to burn them. So smaller molecules burn more easily. They release energy foreign ke foreign. You don't need that much high activation energy. And because of that, what we do is we use cracking to produce smaller fractions because people demand fuels that are more efficient, that are easy to burn. So smaller fractions might be required. So fuel की demand को पूरा करने के लिए we use cracking. Okay, so there are 2 reasons why we use cracking. Okay, so now how can alkenes be manufactured? Cracking of hydrocarbons is how we manufacture alkenes. But let me go through the other options. By polymerization produces polymers, right? So alkenes are not polymers. Similarly, by addition of hydrogen to unsaturated vegetable oils, this will produce margarine. And if you remember, the requirement is nickel and hydrogen gas that you add to vegetable oil which are unsaturated, which had double bond. किसी में डबल बॉन्ड होगी तो वहाँ पे एडिशन होगी. सो यहाँ पर मार्जिन उससे बन रहा है. सिमिलरली कंबशन ऑफ एल्केन्स, कंबशन प्रोड्यूसेस कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड, वाटर. If you have incomplete oxygen or limited oxygen, combustion produces carbon monoxide, or it even produces just carbon. Just a minute. So because of that, we cannot say that it will produce what you call alkenes. It cannot. It has to be something else. Copy. Yeah. Okay, sorry about that. Then we have compound X is shown in dot and cross diagrams. Okay, so let's look at the dot and cross diagram. What's happening here? In this one, you have to look at the pairs of electrons that you have. So jitne pairs honge, utni bonds hongi. Okay, one bond is one pair. So here you have one between each hydrogen and carbon, and this is a double bond. So let me just try to draw the structure. So I have carbon with double bond with this carbon, single bond with this carbon, and then there is obviously hydrogen. So there is one hydrogen here, one hydrogen, one hydrogen. So I have converted the dot and cross diagram to a Louis diagram, which is also called a Kekule structure. And this diagram really helps me out in figuring out कि अच्छा bonds क्या हैं, easily उसको structure कैसे करना है, उसकी properties कैसे देखनी है. So you can clearly see that because of this double bond, this is unsaturated. It is alkene, so it is unsaturated. Similarly, it is hydrocarbon because it doesn't have any other thing in there. No other element, just hydrogen and carbon. Okay, so which statement about compound X is correct? Let's see. This is a saturated hydrocarbon. No, it has a double bond. It is an isomer of butene. Not really, because butene has 4 carbons and a double bond. This one has a double bond but not 4 carbons, so butene nahi ho sakta. It will decolorize bromine water. Yes, anything with double carbon bond will decolorize that. So yeah, this is true. Its name is propane. Not really, it has a double bond in there. Propene is the name. Propane undergoes substitution reaction when mixed with chlorine gas in the presence of ultraviolet light. We know that all alkanes can be used to do that. You need ultraviolet light to produce chlorine radicals. You don't need to know that term. And then they react to make to do the substitution reaction. Now, what's the difference in substitution reaction and addition reaction? In substitution reaction, one atom is substituted at a time. Only one atom is added and one atom is taken out. तो हमेशा क्या होगा कि अगर हाइड्रोजन निकल रहा है तो उसकी जगह क्लोरीन आएगा. Okay, so one atom at a time, that is what substitution does. Addition, on the other hand, what it does is that you have two carbons and both of them will get an atom. So if you're adding chlorine, two carbons, both of them will get the chlorine atom that you have. If you're doing a bromine, both of them will get bromine. Each one of them will get one bromine. So that's important to remember, that in addition, adjacent carbons get one atom each, and in substitution just one carbon gets another atom attached to it. So एक जाता है और एक उसकी जगह आ जाता है. So let's look over here. We are doing substitution, and this in which compound could be formed when propane and chlorine are mixed in the presence of ultraviolet light. Of course एक टाइम पे एक substitution होती है, but overall multiple substitution हो जाती हैं. Now let's look at propane. So propane is this thing, CH3, CH2, CH3. That's the structural formula of propane. अब इसको देख लेते हैं. You're replacing different hydrogens with chlorines. अच्छा, so let's see. So the first substitution that will happen will replace one hydrogen. So one hydrogen, that's going to happen where? So D is not possible, C is not possible because C में तो एक अल्लाह जाने कहाँ से एक क्लोरीन आ गया है, and B is basically two carbons, so it's never propane, and you are basically adding two more chlorine, so it might be an addition reaction. So it's definitely A. Why A? Because there's two hydrogen here, so first they replaced one, then they replaced the other, so that is possible. आप एक बार different substitutions कर सकते हैं, and that will produce this product. As long as you have three carbons, that is going to qualify for the propane part. Okay. Hydrocarbon, this one, will undergo a number of chemical reactions. Let me just draw this out. So CH3, CH, and then CH2. Now notice that the carbon in the middle does not have four bonds. Every carbon must have four bonds. So इसका मतलब है यहाँ पे double bond होगी. So that shows it is alkene, it is unsaturated. So let's see, what kind of reaction will it go? Obviously this can do substitution, this can do addition. Substitution does happen in alkenes. I don't know why many students have that misconception. Substitution can happen in alkenes. Okay. In which reaction will the carbon to carbon single bond be broken? They're not talking about double bond. Double bond break कब होती है? When you have addition. Over here they are asking about single carbon bond. तो वो कब है? जब आप उसको burn करोगे. So yeah, that is combustion. Hydrogenation will simply add hydrogen to both the carbons. So that's breaking the double bond. Polymerization, again breaking the double bond. By the way, इसकी polymerization कैसे करेंगे? Whenever you have polymerization thing, bring it to the standard form. Standard form क्या है कि you have double bond in the center, both carbons on the side, and then you put the rest of it. So if I look over here, one side is CH3, so I'd put that here, and this is my standard form for monomer. Now it makes it much easier for me to draw its polymer. You remember the RCJ or RCB method, और हम उससे इसको कर लेंगे. If you don't remember that, feel free to go over the polymers lecture that we had. Live class थी 2-3 हफ्ते पुरानी बात है. Okay, hydrocarbons can form rings of carbon atoms as well as chains. Yeah, the structure of two hydrocarbon rings are shown. We can clearly see them. Which of P and Q is unsaturated? Unsaturated means carbon-carbon double bond. Okay, so that is definitely Q because of this carbon-carbon double bond. And which reacts with aqueous bromine? So aqueous bromine, what happens when you pass the unsaturated thing through aqueous bromine? It reacts and goes colorless, right? So that's what's going to happen. This is definitely going to be Q as well. So our options are D. There you go. Okay, thank you so much. Moving on. Which structure represents an isomer of butane? Now, how do you identify isomers? Isomers को, if you remember, we used to play a game. I don't know if you did, but उसमें ये होता है कि you start putting the pencil on the very first carbon, and then you keep on moving for as many carbons that you can join, and you can not come back. आप जा सकते हो, bend कर सकते हो, मुड़ सकते हो. You cannot come back. So let me start over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can join a maximum of 4 carbons. And yeah, so that's butane. 4 carbons joined, no double bond, it's butane. Let me try this here. This is supposed to be hydrogen, this is a typo. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I've joined 4. That shows that this is also butane. It's not an isomer. Okay, I'll try this here. 1, 2, 3. I cannot join 4 for some reason. Let me try again. 1, 2, 3. Again, can't join the 4th one, right? So that shows that this could be an isomer. Let me write the formula. C for H10, yes. C for H10, yes. But A and B are not isomers. They're the same thing because I can join the same number of carbons when I draw a line through them. But in C, even though it is C for H10, I cannot connect the same number of carbons. That shows that this is an isomer. So C is an isomer. Okay? So it's important to know this. Let me look at D. This is C for H8, so clearly not an isomer. Which statement about the organic compound CH4, C2H4 and all that is correct? Let's see. CH4 is methane, C2H4 is ethene, which means it is unsaturated. C2H6 is again ethane, saturated. C3H8 again propane, saturated. That means C2H4 is the odd one out here, and that's the one that is unsaturated. So let's see, only C2H4 and C2H6 decolorize. No, only C2H4 does. They are all saturated. No, because C2H4 is not. Usme double bond hai. They're all unsaturated. So we can clearly see that there's one that is unsaturated, the rest are not. And they're all hydrocarbons. Yes, that is true. Okay. Ethanol can be made both by fermentation and by addition of steam to ethene. ठीक है, ethanol बनाने के we have 2 methods. One is the industrial method, one is the fermentation. Okay. Name the organic compound required for fermentation. Now that is a question that depends on your memory. You have to recall this problem again. So the organic compound that we need for fermentation, what would that be? So we need glucose. We start with glucose, we add yeast to it. Don't say zymase. I know people who study bio, they usually know that this is zymase, but it's not zymase. It is yeast, because zymase ka powder dal denge, it wouldn't react. You need yeast because yeast has to undergo anaerobic respiration and all that. Okay, so yeah, because of that you need to remember this, that it is yeast, not zymase that you use. Okay, so yeah, let's see. So we need glucose. Okay, that's the one. State the conditions under which fermentation most rarely takes place. Now again, these conditions are mentioned in your syllabus as well. So you just go to your syllabus, Command F, and just search for fermentation, and the conditions and everything will be over there. And even if they're not, you can simply go over the different notes that you have. Almost every teacher covers this. And the conditions are that you need yeast, you need 20 to 40 degrees Celsius, and you need it to be anaerobic. There must not be oxygen. Okay, so that's super important. Write an equation for the reaction between steam and ethene. Okay, so we'll start with steam. Steam is water, just boiled. Okay, and ethene is C2H4. Remember the general formulas, CnH2n. This forms C2H5OH. That's it. You're just joining them. अगर आपको ये formula याद नहीं आ रहा, you can still write this and score the marks. Name the compound this. Now this is an ester. Now before you name it, remember, ester breaks down if you add sulfuric acid to this, and it always breaks down from here after the 2 oxygens. That's where it breaks down. Okay, again, A levels में आप पढ़ोगे कि that's not entirely correct, but for now, for our purposes, it will work. So this is where it breaks down. Now this hydrocarbon thing, that comes from alcohol, this thing comes from the acid. So this is the alcohol part, this is the carboxylic acid part. Okay, so let me see. In the alcohol I have 2 carbons, right? So that is eth. In the carboxylic part I also have 2 carbons, so this is going to be ethyl for the alcohol part, ethanoate for the ester part, the carboxylic acid part, and yeah, ethyl ethanoate. I have shared a worksheet with you. If you don't have that worksheet, you can go to ahmedbokhari.com, just select O levels chemistry and there will be worksheet for organic chemistries over there. तो वहाँ पर बहुत से worksheets हैं for different practices, so you can go over there and attempt these questions. What name is given to this type of chemical reaction? What is happening here? You're starting with an acid and an alcohol and you're joining them together by removing water. You need concentrated sulfuric acid for this. And because you're removing water, this reaction, you're removing a basic substance, right? So this reaction is called condensation. Okay, so condensation reaction, or you can also call this particular one dehydration, but I would still suggest you call it condensation reaction, not dehydration, even though technically it's still dehydration. Okay, alkanes are homologous series of saturated hydrocarbons. Okay, saturated means that they have carbon-carbon single bonds. See how many times the same term is used. The table shows information. Okay, we can see the table and we can see that there is some trend in melting point, but we can also see that the boiling point is also increasing. So there are trends in there. Okay, dodecane is a liquid at 25. How can you make this deduction from the table? So how do you know something is a liquid, solid or whatever? You start by here, this is the number line, 25 degrees Celsius room temperature. You put the melting point, boiling point on the number line. We are talking about dodecane. So let me see, minus 10 over here, 216 over here. This is my melting point, this is the boiling point. What does this mean? This means the thing is solid here, liquid here, gas here. So 25 is where it is liquid, right? So we'll say melting point is below 25, boiling point is above 25. So that clearly shows that this is liquid at room temperature. Butane melts at minus 138. Use kinetic theory to explain what happens when it melts. So whenever things melt, it is the forces of attraction that are overcome. Do not say that bonds are broken, because bonds are not broken. These are molecules. The intermolecular forces are the ones that are overcome. So we mentioned that at that temperature, we have enough energy, molecules have enough energy to overcome the forces of attraction, intermolecular force of attraction that they have, and so they break down, and so molecules go further away, forces weaken. That is whole melting process. So this is a method of separating mixture of hexane, decane, dodecane. Clearly simple. You use fractional distillation, and then you give this detail of that. What is the detail of that? The detail is that fractional distillation depends on difference in boiling points. So you mentioned that they have different boiling points, and how do we know that? We saw it in the table. They have difference in boiling point, which means you can use that, and when you heat them, you can separate them based on different boiling points. The one with lower boiling point are collected first, the ones with higher boiling points are collected later. Draw the structure showing all the atoms and all the bonds. Now when they say all the atoms, you have to mention hydrogen. All the bonds, so iska matlab hai hydrogen ko banana hai. A common mistake is that students write OH if there is alcohol. They don't say O then bond with H. OH ikattha likh dete hain. Don't make that mistake if they are asking for all the bonds. For two isomers with the molecular formula C4H10. Okay, so C4H10. I have 4 carbons, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm joining them one with each other. Okay, that's C4. And there you go. I'm just filling them. Each carbon should have 4 bonds with them. In fact, this is an easy way to remember. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, carbon. Hydrogen should always have 1 bond, not more, no less. Oxygen 2, nitrogen 3, carbon 4. So every carbon in here must have 4 bonds, and hydrogen is the filler atom. तो हमारे पास ये bond बन गई. हम यहाँ पे hydrogen लिखा देंगे. अभी के लिए I'm going to skip on this. Okay, because exam में, but you will have to show all of them. Now what do we do now? We want to make an isomer, right? Isomer बनाने का बड़ा simple सा तरीका है. Have you worked with Lego? एक जगह से उठाओ दूसरी जगह पे लगा दो. That's all you're going to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this whole part and I'm going to replace this hydrogen with it. I'm going to interchange them and I will get an isomer. So let me try this. So I will take the rest of it stays the same. All I'm going to do is I'm going to move that hydrogen here and this whole CH3 here. And there you go. I've drawn an isomer. Why is this an isomer? I can check. If I try to join them, 1, 2, 3, 4. Without picking my pencil, I can join 4. But here, 1, 2, 3. No matter how much I try, like I can join these 3, these 3. I cannot join 4 here, which means it is still an isomer. They're both C4H10, so clearly isomers. We have drawn them. Okay, structure of hexane is shown. Okay, 6 carbons. Draw the structure showing all the atoms and all the bonds of an organic product of reaction of hexane with chlorine. Now you know that hexane is alkane, and alkanes do substitution with chlorine when you give them ultraviolet light. And that's what will happen here. You're going to give them ultraviolet light, and any one hydrogen can be substituted. You can substitute more. आप 2 कर दो, 3 कर दो, 10 कर दो, आपकी मर्जी है. हाँ, जितने ज़्यादा रिप्लेस करोगे उतना ज़्यादा कम चांस है कि वो चीज़ बने. Okay, but बनेगी. You can even get one where all the hydrogens are replaced with chlorine. बनेगी, but chances कम है उसके बनने के. Okay, so yeah, you can just replace all of that, and there you go. You will be able to get that. And that brings us to the end of this worksheet on hydrocarbons. काफ़ी आसान था. Any questions? Okay. But if you have any questions, feel free to join the rapid revision group. Feel free to ask, and I'll be happy to help. Okay, so yeah, thank you so much. Take care. Allah Hafiz.